Hi everyone, my name is Julie Mann. I am a professional network marketer, I'm an actor and I'm also an EFT practitioner. And today I'm joined by Wright, who is a transformational coach and a speaker. Hi Lee.
Hello Julie, how are you?
I'm really good, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Really good. A little bit nervous, but hey, we'll get on with it.
You've just shown you're human, that's fantastic.
Exactly.
So the reason that I connected with you in the first place is that you and I, at different times, have both done the Landmark Forum, of course.
We have,
What
yes.
I know about Landmark graduates, so people who've done the course, is that they're all about looking at what's possible in life.
Mm-hmm.
And having had a couple of conversations with you, I absolutely know that that's what you're about. So
Yes.
there are a lot of things that I don't know about you, and I'd really like you to share a little bit about your story, because I know you've done lots of really interesting things, lots of varied things. It'd be really great for us to get an idea of, who Lee Wright is and what your journey has been up till now.
Okay, great. How long have you got? Wow. Right, so yeah, I guess the best way to start is to say that I grew up believing that I wasn't good enough. The environment around me, a little bit oppressive, and I was struggling. I was surviving life. I was told I couldn't do things. I believed that I couldn't do them. I was told I wouldn't account to that. I believed it. And that's how I went around my life. My school life, I was bullied at school, went into work and found out in the big wide world, wow, I've now got a little bit of money. I can start enjoying myself. So I went out and I was partying. While I was doing this, I was working for initially NatWest Bank, the old National Westminster Bank. And I moved along through various financial institutions and still partying, still having a good time. The guy with no filter, the guy who's always a laugh and a joke, the one. The party didn't start till me and my mates turned up, that kind of thing. And I realised after about 20 years that that just wasn't working for me. I needed to find something else to do. So what I did was I retrained. I gave up my job, gave in my resignation, and I retrained to become a plumber. Everybody else at the time was giving in their jobs, going to be a plumber. That's where the money is. You live a great lifestyle, all this kind of stuff. And I got through the qualification period and I just started my own little business up. But I was still living the party lifestyle, still enjoying myself, still doing too many of the things that you shouldn't be doing. And one day I found myself in hospital. Now, I went to hospital because basically I couldn't go to the loo. I had a blockage somewhere. And I thought I'd go in and I'd get an enema and I'd be out the following day. Everything's hunky-dory. Now, the truth is I didn't come out of hospital for 6 weeks. I very nearly didn't come out of hospital at all. Lots of complications kept me there for longer than was anticipated by everybody. But it was a real wake-up call for me. I realised that things weren't going the way I wanted them to go. And what I'd been doing up until that point was enjoying myself at the weekends to numb the fact that I couldn't nail down what my purpose was, what life was about for me. So this hospital experience was a real wake-up call. Now at this stage, I'd just started a plumbing business, but obviously with an abdominal surgery going on, I couldn't go back on the tools. So after a long period of sitting at home, making best friends with the PlayStation and all that kind of stuff, I eventually found myself back in work, but I was working for a water authority as a plumbing inspector. But again, I was still just surviving life. I knew there was something different for me. I had no idea what it was, had no idea how to find it. And I plucked up the courage one day and I got myself onto a dating app online. And I went out to this date, and this was the old Lee, dressed to impress, lots of money in the pocket, looking to impress my lady and take her to the best places and all the rest of it. And she turned up and she was wearing a scruffy old pair of trainers, Looked like she hadn't brushed her hair. But I just had the most amazing time. She was fantastic. And what I put my finger on was different. She was in the moment. She wasn't there to set a great impression. She was just there to be herself and enjoy the date and see what happened. So after I think it was about date 3, maybe date 4, I said to her, what is it about you that's so different? Why are you being the way you're being? It's great. I'm really interested in this. And she took me along to an introduction at Landmark. So I've gone along with the intention that I'm not going to get involved here because I don't want her thinking I'm doing it because she's involved. But I sat down at the introduction and the lady who led it told 5 stories, how her life was, what she realised about her life through doing the Landmark Forum, and what her life was like now. Okay, and 4 of those stories were immediately pertinent to my life. So I thought to myself, do you know what? For a few £100 and a long weekend, I can't afford not to take a chance on this. Fast forward 6 years, I'm still involved with Landmark occasionally. My life has completely changed. I'm in control of my life now. I know who I am. I recognise who I am. I love who I am. And yeah, that whole just transformational process, lots of courses, lots of self-development. Yeah, couldn't fault it. Absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. I think there'll be a lot of people watching who can absolutely relate to that feeling of not being good enough or not worthy or not lovable. Yeah. And who doesn't want to be in the moment? That's where the joy is, isn't it? In the moment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Loving yourself. I mean, what greater gift is there than that, really?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you describe yourself as a transformational coach. So what's the difference between a coach and a transformational coach? Because I think there'll be people who are familiar with a coach, but what is the difference?
Okay, so I mean, from my experience, and I'm just talking about my experience here, there are coaches out there who can show you how to do something, how to set up a business, how to, I don't know, write a computer program, something like that. And some of these guys are calling them transformational coaches. Now, I'm not going to rain on anybody's parade, but from my experience, a transformational coach is somebody who can cause a very dramatic shift in the way people think, effectively, basically, to boil down and put a very fine point on it. The way we think leads to how we show up in the world. How we think about ourselves is how we show up in the world. How we think about the world is how the world shows up for us. So a transformational coach is somebody who can guide somebody through the process of realizing that the thinking patterns that they're using aren't necessarily the truth, and they help them change that thinking pattern. And it creates incredible results in people's lives.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I know, being a coach myself, that as coaches, we attract people that are often dealing with the stuff that we've dealt with ourselves.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the things that you've had to overcome along your journey.
Oh, wow. Okay, so the first big thing, I got responsibility. I got that I'm responsible for my life. Now, I said earlier on that I grew up believing that I wasn't good enough. The story behind that, without going into too much detail, is I grew up in what I refer to now as a wicked stepfather situation. And I grew up and went through most of my life resenting the hell out of my mum for bringing this guy into my life. On the Landmark Forum, however, I remember walking around the streets of Camden, tears streaming down my face. My mum's on the other end, and she's actually in Sainsbury's at the time, leaning against the freezers out in Essex somewhere. She's crying her eyes out as well, and I'm thanking her for bringing this guy into my life. Just a complete about turn. I'm thanking her for the fact that I wouldn't have learned the lessons that I've learned through growing up in that environment. I was thanking her for the fact that I had a brother who wouldn't be there had she not set up home with this man. I'm thanking her for the fact that I've got 2 nephews who wouldn't be there if my brother wasn't around. So that's one of the big things. Just really getting responsibility that it's not anybody else's fault. It's all down to me, all down to the individual. Other things, I mean, there was a time that I was looking to leave Landmark. I was doing one of their courses, and it wasn't really working for me. And between I think it was session 8 and 9 out of 10 sessions, I made the choice that was it. I was going to leave Landmark, but I'm going to do one more weekend course. I went on that weekend course and it just completely blew my mind. It reinforced, re-cemented, and then went a hell of a lot deeper on what it is to be accountable for oneself. So I went straight back into that, the long-term Landmark course that I was doing, and I said, hey, do you know what? I want to coach on the next one. I've had such another dramatic turnaround now. I want to give this to somebody else. I went back and coached on that one. Other things, imposter syndrome, dealing with whether or not I'm actually good enough, dealing with whether or not people like me. Now, it was a time when I would walk into a room and keep myself quiet, keep myself small, because I don't know these people. Are they going to like me? Am I going to upset somebody? Now I walk into a room, and not that I judge anybody, but it's more about whether or not I like them, whether or not I want to be in that room with those people. So just complete different about turns in every aspect of my life.
Brilliant. I think there are probably a lot of people who can relate to the imposter syndrome thing, no matter how successful they are and how many, kind of initials they have after their name, it still goes on for so many people. And that's actually such a great illustration of your story right there, of transformation, isn't it? Having a breakthrough beyond your wildest dream, something you couldn't even imagine, something that was a complete blind spot to you, suddenly transformed with your stepfather. Brilliant. Exactly. So obviously, there can be lots of fear, can't there, Lee, around starting something new. And being self-employed is not all plain sailing, is it?
It's not, no,
it isn't. So did you have any concerns about starting something new?
Oh, hell yeah, absolutely. So I've recently really stepped up and started to promote my coaching business. And 2 weeks after making that choice, I actually lost the job that I had. I was working for a local authority, supporting the local college, and I was working as a job coach for a group of young people with special educational needs and autism. So they went on a year-long internship, and I was supporting them and helping them through that, getting them some employability skills. But that was my income. And so 2 weeks after making the choice, I'm going to make sure that this coaching thing works out for me, all of a sudden my income's gone. I'm like, okay, now I've really got to make sure this thing works for me. But that's the test of it. I believe that what shows up for us in the world is entirely our own creation. Now, I wasn't particularly happy in this job. I wasn't enjoying it. There was a lot of traveling involved. It was a very rewarding position, but also a very challenging position. And making that choice to really focus on the coaching aspect of what I do and the self-employed value behind it, it brought around the fact that I can now focus entirely on that rather than have to fit it in between working days and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. So clearly, it's obvious that you love what you do, but what do you love most about what you do?
Oh, wow. I think for me, it's that moment, that just brief moment when you're having a conversation with somebody, a coaching conversation with somebody, and that little light bulb goes on. And just for the brief moment, that look on their face when they realise, oh, wow, I didn't see that. And even better, oh, wow, I didn't see that. And I'm responsible for it. That is just fantastic for me. As well as that, there's the impact that is created in terms of what these people can then go on and achieve for their lives, what they can create out there. And as far as I'm concerned, as long as that's having a positive impact on a ripple effect out there, then it's a win-win situation all around.
Brilliant. And why would someone choose to come to see you specifically, Lee?
So the people I find myself working with at the moment, they're people who very much like me are just realising that what they're doing at the moment just isn't quite working for them. There's nothing wrong with it. They're getting by, they're surviving, they're being successful, but there's something more for them. There's something missing. Yeah, and they'd come to me just to discover what that might be, and to see if they can make those dramatic transformations in their lives.
Right. Got any practical tips for someone who might be watching and feeling fear around, doing something, maybe making a change? Any practical tips that you have?
Not necessarily a tip, but something I've learned through my journey. Human beings only have two innate fears. Okay, that's the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling from a height. So yes, we can be afraid of flying, or we can be afraid of spiders, or afraid of standing up on stage and speaking in front of people. But these are inherited behaviours. They're not innate, they're not natural to us. So bearing that in mind, I would just suggest that people look at the way they're thinking and ask themselves, is what I'm thinking actually the truth? Because I, from my experience, have found that probably 98% of the time, it's not. There's a different way to look at things.
That's a great way of describing it. And also that means that if it's not an innate behavior, then actually that can be changed. So
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely, brilliant. Okay, so how would someone find out more about you, Lee?
Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn. Lee-Wright would be how you find me. I'm on Facebook, but I haven't been using Facebook particularly much over the last few months because I'm focusing on LinkedIn. I don't have a website at the moment. For me, there's nothing that I could put on a website that I can't put on an existing social media platform. So yeah, LinkedIn would be the best place.
Are you on Insta as well?
I'm not on Instagram. No, I've avoided that one.
So before we close, have you got any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with?
I'd go back again to think about the way you're thinking. Look at what's there for you. Look at when you're facing a challenge, take a moment to step back. Look at that challenge from a different perspective. Is it actually how you're representing it? Or is there a different way you can look at it? Because if there's a different way you can look at it, there's a different way you can face up to it. And there's a different way you can circumnavigate it.
Love that. Lee Wright, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Brilliant.